what's going on, people? This is HD BeenDope, and this is BeenDopeSpeaks. On this season, we'll be discussing broken dreams and how it relates to each of our guests. On today's episode, Collin B.
Alright, yo, what's good? It's HD BeenDope, and we're here with an episode of BeenDopeSpeaks, Broken Dreams. And today, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Collin B. How you feeling, man?
Can't complain. Living my best life.
Living your best life. Now, for those that don't know, that is Collin's catchphrase. You know what I'm saying? If you ask Collin how he's feeling and he doesn't tell you that he's living his best life, that means there's an issue and you should probably further inquire. Or if he says he's living his best life and he doesn't sound very chipper about it, you know what I mean? You got to inquire a little bit more. So Collin is, a part of the team. I knew Collin for what? We're at 3 years now? Going on 3 years? Okay, cool. So for the people that, don't know you, just give them a little backstory on who you are and then how we met from your account.
So I guess I met HD through a mutual friend of JD and mine. Holly, I used to work with her at Team Epiphany, which is like kind of my day job when I'm not doing artist management stuff. So Holly went to school with JD. She was talking to JD and she was just like, JD works with this kid, HD. He's really nice. I think you'd like his music. So I had a phone call with JD and then I listened to some of HD's music and I was like, yeah, this shit is really incredible. From there, ended up having a meeting with JD and HD together and we just kind of chopped it up and it's kind of been, we've been working together since.
Cool. So from your account, that initial meeting, how'd you feel about it? Like,
The meeting itself?
Yeah, when we met in that bar and wherever the fuck that was in Manhattan, what did you walk away from that thinking?
Honestly, the part that made me I don't want to say most intrigued to work with you, but I was most excited about it is when we were talking about projects, recent projects at the time that we thought were really resonated with us or anything like that.
Yeah.
And we were talking about SZA's Control project specifically. And I remember JD was saying that he it wasn't maybe his favorite. He didn't really grab him like that. But you talked about how you thought it was a really solid project. And I was like, oh, he's not just a kid who's into hip hop. He's into, projects and musicality and genres outside of hip hop. But yeah, to me, the biggest indicator was he likes albums. Fully fledged, complete projects, which is how I look at that project. And I was like, oh, I'm the same way. My metric for greatness in music, right or wrong, is right up near the top of that is, how many great albums an artist has. And so I was like, oh, HD seems to be similar to that. And that's why I was like, it'd be fun to work with him.
Bet. That's dope. I think for me, initially walking away from that meeting, I think being that you've been with me for a little bit, you realize when new people kind of come around, I'm like, yo, especially when it's on the business front, it's kind of like, yo, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I feel like you were definitely I don't really know about working with this kid.
Yeah, I'm just super apprehensive. But it's wild because I was talking to Brandon about this, and I don't know how purposeful this was from JD's account, but it is kind of mastermindish almost because JD was trying to manage me for once we first met initially. He was like, yo, you need management. And I was just, again, very standoffish. Just dogs, I just don't see any real point of this right now. I'm good type of thing. And there was Josh, the booking agent. He was telling me, he was like, yo, management, we should start looking into people. I want you to meet with my guy. And I was just randomly talking to JD about that. Josh is, wants me to meet with managers, whatever. So from there, it was a week later, JD was like, yeah. So this dude Collin, we gonna go meet with him. And I'm like, wait, what? What are we meeting with him for? He said, yeah, some management shit. I'm like, I was just telling you that Josh was talking about management, but I wasn't saying, yo, let's go set up some manager meetings. You know what I'm saying? So it was going into it. I was kind of like, all right, fuck it. I guess I'm going to just see what it is. Yeah. But being that it was now JD was the person that I knew and it was like, now you're the new person. It oddly like made me and JD's bond a little stronger, because it's like, all right, cool. It's like the idea of if aliens were to come attack Earth, like all humans would just band together regardless of who the fuck they are. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, all right, now we got a new person. Like we gotta talk about this now. You know, but from that initial meeting, it was definitely one of those things like, oh shit, this dude's like really dope. Like, and I think one of the biggest things that stood out for me, outside of the fact that I was like, oh shit, he really fucks with music, like outside of, you know, just somebody that passively listens, like I could tell you really listen and like live with shit. I thought that was dope. But you saying, you know, if shit doesn't work or it doesn't feel good, I wouldn't want either of us to feel like we're locked into this situation. I don't know, there's just something about that like fluidity that's like, I appreciate that, like not feeling like you're here, like just some type of Suge Knight type of situation, you know? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was just really dope. Just the fact that you had it in mind, like, yo, the same way I'm feeling you out is the same way you're feeling me out. And we're both in the same place of like, yo, we're going to see if this works for either of us. It's not like it's definitely going to work for me and it's definitely going to work for you, you know, and there's no other say in it. I just thought that was dope.
Yeah, it's funny, like, after that meeting, like, I remember JD constantly bugging me, like, yo, did you talk to HD today? Did you check in with him? Did you do this? And I knew I was like maybe I had like talked to you like the week before or something like that. And I'm like, I don't think that this is going to be a situation where I can just be like, all right, boom, we're working together. Like, you know, it was definitely going to have to be like, feel this out a little bit. And he would be like, oh, you didn't talk to him today? And I'm like, nah, man, like, I'm like, let's just like, we don't need to immediately jump into this. Let's kind of like, you know, figure it out a little bit. Cause I'm similar. Like it takes me a minute to kind of like get a read on people and make a decision on like how I need to move around them. And if they're like somebody who I'm like, you know, I want to work with this person, like, or even just like, you know, coworkers and stuff like that. Like, you know, getting a read on people, it takes me a minute so I can feel good about like how I need to move around them.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm definitely the same way. But I think that's the cool thing about like our balance, because like you and JD are like kind of opposites in that sense. Like JD is very much forward. JD came to my crib to play 2K. Like when we were still in the getting to know each other stage, JD don't even play 2K. Like he just did that because I play 2K. Like it's just like that. But that's his style of approach. You know what I mean? But that's my guy. Yeah. So it didn't seem too crazy. But besides that, I mean, people now know that, you know, Collin is, if you didn't get it, Collin is part of the management team, you know, and give people a little bit of your backstory, specifically in the promoting shows world, because I want to step into something specific. So just give people a little bit of your background in that.
When I was in college, I went to KU, and actually some friends of mine at the time, they were in a fraternity, and they got some money together to throw a Nappy Roots show, and they wanted me involved just because they knew that I liked music or whatever. I wasn't in the fraternity, but I was like, you know, yeah, I could help you guys out with this. And then from there, I met the owner of this venue. It's the Granada Theater. It's like a 1,000-cap venue. And after talking with him, he was just like, you want to promote some more stuff? And from there, like basically the rest of my time at KU, like I got hired at Granada to do like marketing and like, you know, some talent buying stuff. And then also I would like, you know, throw my own shows outside of that. But it was kind of like a unique time when like blogs were really, really popular in hip hop, and also like college blogs specifically. And, you know, you could blow up and, you know, start like doing college tours pretty quickly. So I, you know, a lot of people who came through like kind of that era, like, you know, from your G-Eazys, your Mac Millers, your Travis Scott early on, like Casey Veggies, J. Cole, Chitty Bang, Sammy Adams, like, you know, just all different types of artists. Like I ended up, you know, booking those shows when I was at KU, and it was like, it was a really good experience for me because it taught me a lot about like, being that Kansas is maybe not like a hotbed for hip hop, I think, you know, as compared to like New York, LA, Atlanta, something like that. Like it taught me a lot about knowing your market and realizing that the internet does not translate one-to-one with the real world. Something could be super big on the internet and it's not going to sell you any tickets. So,
right.
Yeah.
So even that I think that's a good segue to where I'm going. So what the song that I want to talk about off the project today is Gross versus Net. And the backstory about that song is me being on tour with Portugal the Man. So before the tour, we were quoted 15,000, right? That was the quote, how much you're getting from the tour. At this point in my life, that's the most money that somebody has ever quoted me. Craziest shit to me. And mentally, I started preparing as to how that money gets allocated and all these different things. And then there was the idea of merch on the road. So we're projecting about 30K on merch because we're doing 29 cities. On average, it's 1,500 people cap. So we're like, all right, cool. We make $1,000 damn near every night. We're pulling close to 29, 30,000. Seems right to me, right? So we get on the road, and for that tour, I ended up buying lights. I wanted to make it a real thing. On the road, merch is not selling the way we thought that shit would sell. Like, it's just a lot of things just started, like, the longer the tour went on, money-wise, shit was just like, oh, we're just keeping afloat. Like, we weren't to the point where it was ever detrimental, but, like, it was definitely, like, we're keeping afloat. We're not actually exceeding anything right now. And then to come home from that tour and realize, oh shit, we don't got any money. I can't pay people. I that was one of the biggest things, because I mean, for me to have people around that are willing to help in the shit that I'm doing, I'm very big on. I want to be able to show that love back to people and also be able to compensate people. So to be in that position of feeling like, oh, this is the first time I'll be able to actually compensate people, that was a big thing for me. And then to come home and realize, like, damn, I wasn't able to do that. It was like this almost thing of failure, but through that, it made me realize the difference between gross and net, because, back then I would see people like headlines and shit like that, and it'll be like, Drake grosses 5 million on his last tour. And where my mind would always go is just like, okay, cool, Drake made 5 million off that tour, like pocketed that. And then learning the touring process and everything and the difference between the gross and the net, it's like, oh shit, you can get quoted this much, but how much you're pocketing could be a whole different thing. It could be way less. It could be a lot, close to it, whatever. But there's just a difference between gross and net. So with you in the promotion world, promoting these tours, and like you were saying, things don't necessarily translate one-to-one. You could have a big fan base online, and then you get to a show and it's not as great. Walk me through your processes, like your money woes, like times that you felt like, yo, we were about to cash in crazy, and then the show happens and it's like, oh, I owe money. Like, what was those moments like for you?
Yeah, like I think like one of the best examples was J. Cole. I was like, I was adamant that we should book that show because I was like, he's got the deal, and this is at the time where I think Friday Night Lights was just about to drop, or maybe had just come out. And I also remember it was right around when he did that Kanye Good Fridays feature. And I remember like all the noise. Yeah, like all the noise on the internet. Everybody was like bugging Kanye, you got to get J. Cole on one of these. And then he was looking for trouble. I think he closed that song out, and he like goes a cappella, and everybody was like, oh my God, like J. Cole is so crazy. Yeah. But I was like feeling pretty good about it. But the thing is, like, J. Cole, if I remember correctly, he was on this BET Music Matters tour. So it was J. Cole plus K. Michelle and then another R&B artist I can't remember. But so it was because of that, it was like, these three artists packaged together, so it's a little bit pricier. And to me, I was still pretty early on in my time of like during shows. It was one of the first couple that I convinced, Granada to let me throw there. And I think we did like 270 tickets or something like that on a show that like probably needed to sell 850 to break even, and on like a $20 ticket or something like that. I just remember walking in and being like, I was like a huge fan of J. Cole since Lights Please, that came out when I was like a senior in high school. And so I was like really excited about this. And then I couldn't even really enjoy the show like that, and honestly couldn't really like listen to his music for a little bit after that, because I was just like, this is, it's just it was such an enormous loss. And then when you, it's tough after that when you start, you you hope that you have made enough in previous shows to kind of like cover that. And I was lucky enough for like a lot of the shows that I did at Granada, like I was able to maybe take a little bit more of a risk because being that I worked there, Mike Logan, the owner, and my boss at the time, he was nice enough to be like, I kind of know where you live, so like you don't necessarily need to cover the venue rental fee up front.
Yeah.
So he's like, we could factor that into the expenses, but we can deal with it after the fact. And so, worst case, like if you tank, like then it we'll figure out like how much money you owe me, as opposed to like having to front the $2,000 or $3,000 or something it was to rent it, and then also put up money for marketing on, radio and flyers and everything else.
Right.
But I think the saving grace for that and what allowed me to like continue promoting shows at Granada is I had done Sammy Adams like 2 or 3 weeks prior. And for those of you who don't know, like Sammy Adams was just like a really big like pop frat rapper at the time. He had this song, he like remixed Asher Roth's I Love College into a song I Hate College, and he like was immensely popular.
I don't think I've ever even heard that shit. Wow.
Yeah, it's just like he's like much more of like a pop artist now, I'd say, but he was like trying to be very much in that like early G-Eazy, Asher Roth, like Hoodie Allen space at the time. But that show sold out like 2 or 3 weeks prior, and that's really the only reason I was able to like keep promoting shows at Granada and like kind of stay in the game.
That's 1,000 cap, right?
Yeah, I think technically like 850 is what it says on the flyer thing, but we'd sell 1,000 tickets.
Got you.
Yeah, and so but that like that was like I said, the J. Cole show. Let's say it's a $20 ticket, and I think it was like $14,000 in talent plus marketing expenses. Like realistically, that's the type of show you book, and more so with the hopes that like you can have it on the venue's resume of being like, hey, we booked so and so before they turned into what you know them today.
Yeah.
And maybe you can bring them back one more time at like a $26, $27 ticket, but like KU it's like 45 minutes outside of Kansas City, and it really only exists as like a college market. And so like there's definitely a ceiling in terms of like how big of a show you can book. The biggest venue in town was like 1,050 seats, I think. So.
Oh wow, damn. So from that, you kind of going through that ringer of like, damn, I thought J. Cole was about to sell this shit crazy, and it was underwhelming in terms of ticket sales. What did you walk away with in terms of your understanding of artists and where they are, and even seeing where they can become? Because obviously J. Cole went on to be a huge touring act. What did you take from that, just in terms of how you view artists?
I mean, basically like the internet is important, but at the same time, it's not real, really, or not always, right? And to me, it's like there's a lot of artists that popped during that era that like leveraged their internet presence into smaller shows and then really got on the road to grind it out. Like J. Cole's one of them. He did a bunch of tours. Wiz Khalifa had that Cushion OJ tour that he did like 65 dates, and it was like a huge thing at the time. Mac Miller, another one. MGK, I remember, was booked at the Bottleneck, a smaller venue there, and I remember he kind of like grinded it out on that circuit. But yeah, it's like it taught me a lot about like really knowing your market. And then I guess the other thing is just like I don't know, like I think you got to look at stuff in terms of like, maybe even if you think it's popular now, sometimes you need to keep that in your back pocket and save it for later. Like, and so there were other shows later on that I saw maybe trending in a certain direction, and I'll be like, I was maybe too early on it, like I was with J. Cole. Let's wait 6 months for it to come back around. And I remember at the time I wanted to book G-Eazy, and I held off on it, and then Hoodie Allen picked him up on a tour, and he opened for it, and Hoodie did like 850 tickets, but I could tell a lot of people were there for G-Eazy. So then I was like, let's book G-Eazy as a solo artist. And we did that like 4 or 5 months later, and he did like 780 tickets or something like that. It was like a really popular show. And I think we ended up bringing him back one more time as well. And then same thing with like Travis Scott. He was going to do this tour with Casey Veggies. And originally we were going to do like a straight, like basically like a straight deal to like book him with a X amount of guaranteed money. But I was like, maybe we should hold off on that. And it ended up getting booked as a door deal. So basically, Travis and Casey would walk away with, as much money as they could make from the door. And we put that show on sale, and it had been on sale for like a month. And it was probably the smart play to try to have them do a door deal as opposed to guaranteeing them money, because it only sold like 4 tickets. We ended up having to cancel the show. But
wait, what?
Yeah.
4?
Like 4 tickets.
4?
But this is pre Owl Pharaoh.
Oh,
Travis
pre
Scott.
Owl Pharaoh.
Like, I think, what was that record with T.I. and 2 Chainz on
Upper
it?
Echelon?
Yeah, like I think that's his joint out at the time.
So that's the only record that he had out.
I think he had one other one with T.I. I'm blanking on what that record is now, but yeah, basically like he's not really like, he's not Travis Scott we know him today, right? And he's definitely not even like rodeo Travis Scott.
That's
and
wild though. Yeah.
Honestly, I think you can make the argument at the time that Casey Veggies was like the bigger act on the bill.
That's right.
Because he had that project, it had like the animated cover on it with like Mac Miller was on the project, and there's a couple other people at the time, but he was pretty popular like from like a hip hop blog standpoint. Yeah. But yeah, like we ended up having to cancel that show because it just like didn't sell any tickets.
Wow. That's actually amazing to just know that, every artist kind of has to go through that ringer. Because even with, I think I'm still in the midst of the ringer, and to be inside of it, you kind of are a little heavy on yourself at times. Because, specifically, I remember I was on tour in Europe, and I think the last show we had was like somewhere in France. I don't remember. So we do a show, and it was a good show. It was like I'm running on this high of a show, and then my booking agent is just like, yo, they want you to do a show in Poland tomorrow. Like, let's go. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like, I'm thinking in terms of internet reactions and things like that. I'm like, I've never seen Poland that crazy in my comments or DMs or anything like that. So I was a little apprehensive about it, but it's just like, okay, well, I guess if a promoter is like, yo, I'm throwing this show, there must be some type of excitement there or whatever. And I go to do the show, and it's in this bar, and, there's people in the bar at the time, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it'll be all right. And then they're like, oh, yeah, nah, this is just like the bar regulars. Like, it's about to close, and then we're going to reopen it, and people can come in for the actual show. So I'm like, oh, shit, like, what is this about to be? So, cool, we go back to the hotel, chill out for a minute, go back to the venue, and it's 20 people in there. And this is like a big-ass bar, you know what I mean? Like, there's depth in this bar, so I'm just looking at these people, and I'm kind of like, damn. And I did the show, went through the whole thing, but I felt like shit the whole time, because I'm just like, I can just only imagine how stressed out this promoter is, and you know what I mean? Just everything about the situation was just out of, my control, and just not in a good position. But somebody did come to me after that show and just spoke about how much that shit meant to them, you know what I mean? And the dude, he wasn't the promoter, but like the liaison, I guess. He brought us back to the hotel, and he was telling me how much of a fan he was and how much this shit like really meant to him and all of this. And that was like a moment, it was like, oh wow, like, as much fucked up shit is around this, it's still a moment for people, and that kind of changed my perspective. So I say all that to say, I'm sure Cole would say thank you for even, keeping that show to keep going, regardless of the fact that, niggas ain't sell out the way that it was supposed to. But yeah, that's my story about the whole show shit.
Wait, for that show in Poland, were there openers on it?
Nah, it was just me.
Just you. Okay.
Yeah. That was...
Because that's the other thing I would always try to do is like, I had a couple people who I'd love to put on shows because they were easy to work with, and they were always good for, 20, 30, 40 tickets. Yeah. So I would always, like, if that was another thing I learned, is I was like, at least if I can get, a couple of my go-to openers on the show, like that's at least, let's call it 50 to 75 tickets each time. And that's also, even if the headlining act only brings 100 people, like the type, especially the way the venue was set up, like I had this like pit kind of in front of the stage, and we could close off parts of it to make it just this like area right in front of the stage. So it could still feel okay if like 150 people were in there, even though it was like 1,000 tickets that like up to 1,000 tickets that we were able to sell.
Got you. Yeah. That those intimate shows to me are like the best shit. But I mean, you know, eventually we gonna grow this to a place where we're doing the big joints, you know, 1,000 cap venues.
Well, and I remember like 2-3 years later, I saw J. Cole at Made in America, and he was still on one of the like the side stages, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like 5,000 people, but I just remember being like, wow, this is crazy to see you in front of 5,000 after seeing you in front of 270 people or something like that.
Yeah.
And now, you know, he could sell out MSG back to back if he wanted to, right? So
that journey is a long one, but it's dope. It's very dope.
Yeah.
And to just be able to see it at different points in it, it's fire. I think it's very fire. But word, man, that is, unless you want to say anything else to the people, or you good?
I think that's it for me. I mean, go stream Broken Dreams, but
Collin out here plugging. All right, word for sure. That is the end of this episode. As Collin said, go stream Broken Dreams, man. This has been BeenDopeSpeaks, Broken Dreams. Let's talk with Collin Bean. Yo, come on. That's kind of hard, yo. That's kind of fire. Oh, shit. My mic just dropped. All right, word. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll be back on the next one. And thank you, Collin, for being here, man. Peace.
for sure.
Thank you for listening to BeenDopeSpeaks. Subscribe anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And make sure you hit me up on all socials at HDBeenDope. Peace.